Welcome to the show, Brittany.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to meet you. We met in Swift Steps, right? That's where
I
I
think
met
it
you.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just telling my mom that.
Yeah. How long have you been in that group?
I think about a year now. I did a live with her about a year ago.
Jules is awesome. I love Jules.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Um, we were talking before we hit record. Jules and I actually met 4 years ago through this show. And
Okay.
at the time, this is before Swift Steps. Her and her mom had a podcast called How I Met Your Sober Mother.
Oh, I love that. I
And
did not know
I
that.
love the show. And I was like, I love How I Met Your Mother. And I was like, oh, I want to do that show. And we reached out to each other. We did each other's shows. And then she's been on this show a bunch of times. And then I've been on Swift Steps when she started that. I've been on that a couple times now as a speaker. And I had the other show about trauma, and she was my second guest actually for that show. So, and I'm from South Jersey originally, right outside of Philadelphia. So, like, we grew up in this kind of area. Yeah, that accent. Yeah, I definitely have an accent. I didn't know I had an accent and started living all over the country. Now everyone's like, "You talk different." I'm like, "You talk fucking different."
Talk fun.
You're from Vegas?
Born and raised, yeah.
Born and raised. Okay, in the city or outside this? Like,
In the city, in the heart of the city, yeah.
oh shit. Okay.
I don't think I've ever lived more than 10 minutes from the Strip.
Wow. How is that growing? Because like, you know what? We'll get to that in a second. My favorite question to start off with is, what is your sober date or clean date, whatever you want to call
it? November 16th, 2020.
Oh, wow. So during COVID.
Yeah.
November 16th, 2020. Mm-hmm. All right. A lot was going on in 2020. I quit drinking February 29th, 2020. What was going on for you November 15th of 2020?
I went to California to get sober with my family, who has a huge recovery ministry in California.
I went to California to get sober. Where'd you go?
So my uncle's church is Set Free in Anaheim, and I went and hung out with him. I just hung out with him for 4 years.
I was in Southern Cal. I was in Culver City, section of Los Angeles on the west side.
In treatment?
Yeah.
My cousin owns treatment centers there. My family is like huge in treatment out there. So
in Culver City?
I think that's where I know he's got one in Studio City, and I think the second location's in Culver.
Yeah, I love Culver City. It's like a little town. Yeah, you could walk all over the place. It wasn't that dangerous, and I walked all over. There's, I'm a 12-stepper. There's 300 meetings in LA County every single week.
Jeez, yeah.
It's crazy. I used to walk from Santa Monica to Marina Del Rey all the time.
Walk.
It is a walk. I used to Uber from Culver City to Santa Monica, 26 and Broadway to go to AA every day at noon. And then I would walk from 26 and Broad over to Westwood, in the heart of Westwood by UCLA, to go to IOP every day. And I would get done AA at 1, hang out, smoke a cigarette, fellowship a little bit. And then it would take me about an hour and 20 minutes to walk from Santa Monica over to Westwood. And then do IOP for 3 hours every day. But I loved it.
My uncle founded the Dream Center in LA, actually.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay. LA has amazing recovery. People I'm from South Jersey, and everyone's like, why don't you go to Florida? Everyone goes to Florida. And I was like, that's the problem. I don't want to know anybody. Yeah. I want to start over, and I went to a place called High Sobriety that's no longer open.
Okay.
So for me, what happened was I quit opiates April 25th, 2018. And on 420, I was watching a documentary called Legend of 420 on Netflix. And I was on pills and I was high on weed and, I was smoking cigarettes or whatever. And there was a bunch of segments on how cannabis is, good for people and healthy. And one of the segments was about this recovery center called High Sobriety in Los Angeles that helped you get off of opiates using cannabis. And for the first time in a decade, I was like, that's a treatment center I would go to. Yeah. And then the next day I had a horrible day and I was just like, fuck it. And I called them at 8:00 at night and they answered on a Saturday. And the guy talked to me for like 2 hours in a way that I hadn't been talked to in years. And I flew out there on that Wednesday and haven't touched an opiate since.
That's amazing.
So, you know, I since quit smoking weed April 1st of 2024. So it's been, you know, a while since I smoked weed, but it helped me get off opiates, and it's what I needed at the time.
Yeah.
So November 15th, 2020, you up and left Vegas and you went
No, so I left Vegas about a week before. I feel like I have to go back a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, tell me. Yeah.
So I was gonna go back to prison is what it really was. My mom had enough of me. She called my PO and said she's at her boyfriend's house. This is the address. Like, have at her. And so my PO showed up, and she called the CEO of a program called Hope for Prisoners that I had graduated from. And I was kind of like the face of their program at that time, but I was still getting high and nobody knew it. So she ratted me out to everybody. And my PO was like, hey, remember when the judge gave you a longer sentence over your head and gave you a 5 to 15 instead of a 3 to 5? I'm going to put you back in prison for that. And I was like, can we talk about that?
Yeah.
He was like, if you can be in treatment in the next 48 hours, I won't send you back to prison.
Okay.
So I called my uncle, who I already had gone out to California about a year prior. My mom and my ex forced me to go, but I only lasted a week. And I found some guy on Craigslist that was going to smoke me out the whole drive back to Vegas. So that didn't stick. But so I went back. I knew it was time. I got there. I was sober for maybe 4 days there. And somebody had dope. Somebody brought meth around, and I gave in instantly.
Yeah.
But for the first time in my life, I got called on it. Like, I instantly, my AC shut my door and freaked me out. My uncle, I was at work, and my uncle called me, and he was like, how's your first day? And I was like, it's good. And he was like, are you tweaking? And I was like, what? No, I didn't know that was allowed. Like, such a smart ass. And he goes, okay, I'll see you when you get home. I was like, fuck. Okay. So I got there, and he handed me a drug test as soon as I walked in the door. And sent my friend in the bathroom with me. And I was like, you have to pee in this cup for me. And she was like, no. We don't do that here. Like, absolutely not. Because everybody's in recovery, you know? Yeah. She was like, go back out there and tell your uncle what you did. That's your option. So I went out and I was like, hey, I messed up. Like, I smoked meth. I did it. And he was like, okay, there's a group coming to the house because his kids all own treatment centers. So people come do groups in his home. So we had this group that showed up, and as the group comes in, he goes, hey, everybody, this is my niece, Brittany. She's going to tell you about how she had 4 days sober, and she smoked meth last night. Brittany, go ahead. And I was like, oh, my gosh. And I was like, oh, no, thank. And he's like, no, go ahead. Yeah. You know, you've got to picture this man is like a 76-year-old former 1%er biker, tattoos down his face, now loves Jesus with his whole heart, but he's no joke. Like, he meant it. And the next
this was in Anaheim?
Yeah, this was in Anaheim.
Okay.
At his house. He lives on like this super cool house. It's all black, motorcycles lined up outside the house.
Yep.
He calls it the magic house because he loves to trigger people. Like, magic is such a dirty word in the church community.
That's so funny because, you know, we talk about LA, and when I was in Santa Monica, I dabbled in NA and I dabbled in AA, and I used to go to this NA meeting every Thursday on Kensington Boulevard in Santa Monica. And I remember Kensington because I'm from Philly, and Kensington is such a huge area for a drug market. It's one of the biggest open air drug markets in the country is Kensington and Philly. So I thought it was ironic that I would go to NA at Kensington and Santa Monica, and there was a biker gang that would go there. And I forget their name now, but it was about like bikers in recovery. And, you know, there'd be about a dozen of them.
I'm wondering if it was maybe Christ's Sons or End Day Soldiers.
It might have been soldiers. You know, this was 7 years ago, and I was in such like a fog of recovery still. But they show up in their leather cuts and on their bikes, and they would, you know, share in the meetings. And I ended up having a guy on here early on about 4 years ago, not affiliated with that biker gang. Actually, he spent time in Vegas too. He was from Vegas, but also was in a biker gang in California. We had to like black out his face a little bit because of the stories he was telling.
Oh yeah.
That kind of stuff, and some wild stories. And I even changed his name for him and everything. but he had some wild stories, and he was in a biker gang. The president of the biker gang he was in got clean, and they started saving other people that were in addiction, and that was their sole purpose instead of drug running was to save people in addiction. And this guy's job was to go and like fetch these people, and he was still getting high low key. And they eventually were like, "Hey man, we know what you're doing. Like we're not dumb.
Yeah.
We're one of you. We know what you're doing." Okay, so your uncle's, old biker, 1%er.
Former 1%er. His house is the only place that like two very well-known 1% bike clubs that usually would be very violent if they saw each other. Yep. His house is their common ground. I've had dinner with them together. Like, it's a wild world, but people are also getting saved there, and it's so cool. Like, people's lives are changing constantly. Mm-hmm. And I threw myself into that community. When I got called out, I was like, okay, this is what I needed in my life. Because I was so used to my mom. My mom would find foils and like tutors in my bed, and I'd be like, it's weed wax. Like, why are you yelling at me? And she'd be like, okay. Like, she didn't know. She's never had drug experiences. So I so desperately needed someone to call me on my bullshit. And my uncle did it and still does it in a way that I just like did not even know was possible.
You're 33, I'm guessing.
About to be.
Yeah, your email said 92 in the email.
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, do I look 33?
No, I put 2 and 2 together when somebody has an email address that like, I'm 86. So if it said 86 in my email, I'm like, okay, I know he's 39.
Yeah.
So I do that all the time where I'm assuming people's ages whenever they have like a number like 90 or 92 in their email address. So you're about to be when do you turn 33?
October.
Okay, I'm September 29th.
Oh, Libra?
Yeah.
Yeah, October 14th here.
Yep. My brother is October 10th. My dad was October 13th. What's that?
My best friend's the 10th.
Oh, really? Yeah, my brother's the 10th, and my dad was the 13th. So we were all shared birthday parties growing up. All three of us. We had 3 separate cakes, but we'll be one party. You grew up in Vegas. Let's backtrack a little bit. Grew up in Vegas. Mm-hmm. Brothers, sisters, siblings.
Older brother had an older brother. It's actually funny that we're doing this today. Tomorrow is the 4-year anniversary of he died of a fentanyl overdose.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Another one. Yep. In this disease.
Yeah. Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah. How much older?
We grew up here together. He 4.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's hard. You were at the time 2 years sober then.
No, right? I was like 4 months sober. It was in 20 or wait.
Oh shit. Okay.
I'm sorry. My sober date August. Yeah, maybe 6 or 7 months sober.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. It's
never easy that early on. How close were you with your brother if you both were addicts?
It's funny because we were so far apart, and he started using drugs very young in his life. So I had a lot of good kid syndrome growing up. I was super smart. Okay. I had straight A's. I spent a lot of time at friends' houses because he was going through so much turmoil.
That's what I was going to ask you about. You're growing up with him and your parents together, divorced?
Divorced when I was 2.
Okay. Who did you primarily live with?
My mom, who remarried pretty quickly. Yeah.
Okay. Dad in the picture still, or?
In and out. We've had an interesting relationship. After my brother, things change after you lose a kid. So I will give him the credit of he's made a lot more of an effort over the last 4 years than he ever has. I believe in giving credit where it's due, but it wasn't always good.
Yeah.
He has his own struggles.
Yeah, I mean, we all do. And that's a wake-up call when you lose a kid, like, oh, shit, I only got so much time with this other one now.
Well, and a kid that hadn't spoken to him in almost 4 years, so...
that's a hard thing because I was just talking to a friend of mine who just lost her dad, and her dad, their relationship got rocky when her parents divorced after she graduated high school. Her parents divorced, and her dad kind of stopped running the rocks, and her dad died of a heart attack like last week. And she said, it's really weird because I felt like I already mourned his death. And when we stopped talking, and now I have to mourn it all over again because I can't rebuild that relationship.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, that's, because my dad passed away 2 years ago, and it's when we were very close, but it's a very hard thing to, lose someone that close to you. So I totally,
Yeah. Well, and
it's,
it's funny you said like mourning someone's death ahead of time. My brother was sober for 6 years from opiates before
okay.
he relapsed. So
Mhm.
I had mourned my brother's death, I feel like so many times, even before before I deeply fell into my own addiction, that I was like, I know I'm gonna get a phone call that this dude died. Like I was so sure of it for so many years. So it was like I was past all that, and it was like, oh no, now you're really gonna mourn his death.
Yeah.
Um, but to better answer your question, he got sober and he got a little bit holier than thou, and I did not appreciate that at the time. Um, I remember I called him one time, and like now my church is pretty much my whole life, but at the time I was not there, and I called him to vent about our dad, and he was like, "The only father you need is our Father in heaven," and I was like, "Click." I was like, done. I will never talk to you again. Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's not what I needed to hear right
all I
now.
needed was the only other person on the planet whose
Yeah,
father this is to say, "You're right, dad sucks." Like
yeah,
that's all I needed.
that's all I needed.
So yeah. Uh
So okay, so you bet you spent a lot of time with your friends growing up
yes.
because of
Yeah.
like your mom remarried pretty quickly, you said?
Yeah, but he ended up being addicted to meth as well. So they ended up divorced later
Okay.
as well. Which
All right. I
also
was just
sucks
gonna
for me
ask
because
how
I
that
loved
relationship.
him. And
Okay.
he left. He took off one day and never said a word to me.
Okay. How old were
Um,
you when he left, when he bounced?
13, I think.
Oh, so you had spent almost a decade with this
Yeah.
guy as like
Yeah.
a father figure because your dad wasn't really present at the time.
Yeah, he was back in and out like some weekends, but if something better came up, my dad was like, "Oh, I'm actually not going to pick them up."
Yeah.
So
Yep. And and your brother discovered drugs at a younger age, you had said, because he was dealing with his
probably
own.
he was 14 or 15 when he got into hard drugs.
Okay, so you were like 10, 11.
Hmm.
When did you discover drugs or alcohol, and what came first, drugs or alcohol?
I remember drinking like a couple times, obviously before I tried drugs, but I still like I can have a glass of wine with my friends and be okay, but I don't like alcohol. Xanax was my first love. Somebody crushed up a Xanax in art class my freshman year of high school, and I snorted it. And I failed my written PE exam later that day, which honestly is kind of impressive, I feel like. But
Yeah.
I got the grade back and I told everybody, I was like, I didn't even go to that test. And they were all like, no, you were there, dude. And you were like yelling during the test. Like, and I was like, weird. I don't recall. But
Yeah, Xanax is a bitch. People underestimate it. I almost died from it December 4th of last year.
yeah.
Um, I quit smoking cigarettes last November for a little bit, and I have, like I said, I haven't bought drugs off the street in over 7 years. Even when I was smoking weed, I was buying from the dispensary.
Right.
I had a relapse with alcohol. Again, I was going to liquor stores, so I haven't like bought drugs. When
Yeah.
my dad died, I relapsed with Ativan, and then I progressed into Valium. And I was snorting Valium, and then I quit that, and I haven't touched Valium since April 1st of last year. And then November, I was like 9 months clean, and I quit smoking cigarettes, and I was so stressed, and I felt like I needed a release. And I messaged my psychiatrist, and I said, "Hey, man," and I had way too comfortable of a relationship with my psychiatrist. Let's put it that way. My wife never liked him because my wife always said it sounded like he was high. So
Interesting.
he's no longer my psychiatrist. I'll put it that way now. But I said, "Hey, man, I'm struggling. I need something to take the edge off. Can I get a benzo?" Like straight up. Like didn't even see him in the office or anything.
Right.
Didn't even do a video call. And he said, "I'll send you over a script of Ativan." I said, "Not strong enough." Straight up. I said, "Not strong enough." He said, "Valium." And then I said, "Nope. I
You don't
was
want to
smoking
know.
Valium 9 months ago." He was like, "All right, well, how about 1 milligram Xanax? I'll send you a 90-day. I'll send you a 30-day count 3 times a day." I said, "All right, good. Let's do that." Sent me that. 5 days later, 90 of them. 5 days later, hey, I'm out. They weren't strong enough. I don't have any left. All right, well, here's a script for 90 for 2
Go.
milligrams, the bars. 4 days later, I took 20 of them in 12 hours.
Jeez. It's a lot.
I was taking them all day while I worked.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe once every hour and a half, I pop another. And I work on the phones all day long, taking phone calls for a hospital system scheduling. And I was just popping Xanax all day.
Oh my God.
And I don't know. And I was getting hundreds on my quality scores. So like I was just chill, like, hey, thanks for calling, blah, blah, blah. This
Whatever
is
you
JD.
need, my man.
Yeah, how can I help you? And I was just the most chill employee ever. And then I'm off on Wednesdays, and 7 p.m. rolled around because I work 7 to 6:30 on the phones. And I was like, I'm gonna pop a couple. I'm off tomorrow. And then like an hour later, like I'm gonna pop a couple more. I'm gonna pop a couple more.
There's something about Xanax that you just.
And I wasn't falling asleep that night. I just kept popping more. And my wife woke up at like 7 a.m. to get our kid ready for school. We have an 11-year-old, and I was just done, out of it completely. They were concerned, called an ambulance, and I was overdosing. I took 20 of them in 12 hours, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. That's not even including all the ones I took during the day on that Tuesday.
Right.
That was just straight up 7 to 7.
Yeah.
And
That still hadn't
know,
reached their half-life in your system. That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't remember anything from the hospital except for the catheter being put in, which is the worst thing to remember. And ended up in a psych ward for 3 days. I was in the hospital for 3 days, coming off of Xanax with Barbitrol or whatever it's called. Coming off that with 3 days, and then they sent me to the psych ward for 3 days. And I'd been to rehab before, and I had a great experience in rehab, but the psych ward did not. Couldn't smoke cigarettes because I relapsed with smoking cigarettes. Once I started taking Xanax, I started smoking cigarettes again. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Because when you give no fucks when you're on Xanax, zero. There's zero fucks to be had. You're way too chill.
Yeah. I got really heavy into them from probably 18 to 21.
Okay.
And I had a doctor who, similarly, and who now is actually in prison for some really awful things I found out. And now I'm like, oh, that's why you were just throwing Xanax at me. But I was 18, 19. And he was writing me, I think, 92 milligram bars a month. And my mom was calling him and saying, hey, she's taking so many of these that she's crushing them up around her room and walking away from them and forgetting that she just crushed one out to snort. And he was like, I'll talk to her. Well, I mean, throwing them at me. I was coming in I lost him on the bus. And he's like, oh, that's too bad. Here you go. Yep. I flipped her car twice. I flipped a car on the way out to Pahrump in Vegas, which is the middle of nowhere Vegas. I could not tell you why I was going to Pahrump. I just know I woke up upside down in a car. I don't know how I'm not dead. I would wake up with just shopping trips. I was stealing for everything from everywhere.
Everything.
24-hour Walmarts in Vegas. I was going to every single one and waking up and looking in the back of the car oh, shit.
Yeah. Everybody who has ever been on this show, 200 some episodes, that has a problem with Xanax, had a problem with stealing.
Yeah. I always say that I was not a victim of the Xandemic. The Xandemic was a victim of me. I was out here creating chaos.
There was I was only smiling when you mentioned the car flipping. No, I wasn't laughing at that. I was laughing related because I was house sitting for somebody that I house sitted for all the time, but this time I was bad on Xanax and I needed money for opiates. So I stole $5,000 worth of jewelry from his wife and pawned it.
One does,
I consider myself a smart criminal when I'm clean. But when I'm on Xanax, all bets are out the window. And I went to the closest pawn shop. Here's my ID. Caught me right away, obviously. It's a 45-minute drive from that house to my parents' house where I was living. Got into 3 car accidents on that drive on the same road. 3 bumpers, three fender benders on the same fucking drive. And I got arrested a week later. I was in my basement high, as one is when you live with your parents in your 20s and you're just a drug addict.
Yeah.
I'm knocking the door, asking for me. My dad has the same name. He's like, well, that's me. And he's like, no, we need your son. And I got arrested. And the worst part about that, besides getting arrested, was the 45-minute car ride in the back of the cop car with handcuffed behind my back.
Yeah.
But it did give my dad time to get money out of the bank to bail me out as soon as I got there in process, because he had time to hit the bank and follow basically behind. And then I got probation in my first offense, and it wasn't a drug related offense, so I wasn't getting drug tested, and I just continued getting high the whole time.
Yeah.
So anyway, you discover Xanax first, and 18, 21, you go on a run. Everyone steals on Xanax.
Got my first DUI 2 months after I turned 18. I remember I was driving, I was smoking a blunt in the car, windows up.
Obviously.
I got pulled over by highway patrol. I saw a female officer get out of the car, and I was like, I'm going to jail. Like, off the top, I stand no chance here.
Yeah.
And so I had to roll down the window and let the smoke billow out into her face.
Yeah, you got to let up a cigarette real fast to kind of mask the smell.
I didn't even smoke cigarettes then, so I just stood no chance.
Okay.
I was like, hi.
Yeah.
She said, get out of the car. His first DUI, that was not great. Yeah. I did okay after the first DUI. A year later, I got my second DUI on Xanax. This one went a little less well for me. I've never shut up a day in my life. And the cop pulled me out of the car, and he saw this tiara I have tattooed on my wrist. And he was like, you think you're a princess? I can do that. And I was like, whoa, I don't know if I like remind you of your ex-wife or what, but you were coming at me hot. And like he ripped me out of the car.
It's not gonna like that one.
He wrote the judge a handwritten letter asking him to throw the book at me because I thought I was above the law. My lawyer was like, I've never seen this. Like, that is crazy. I said, I feel like I was right. I feel like I hit the nail right on the head, honestly.
Yeah. Real sensitive about that one.
He did not like that joke. So then I finally checked myself into detox, which it's actually funny. My weed dealer at the time was like, hey, we don't want to hang out with you anymore. You are not fun. Like, you're like hitting the bong and like, where's the lighter? And we're like, in your hand, Brittany, for the love of God. I was waking up on his couch often because I would go over there to buy some weed, and he'd be like, I'll take these keys. Thank you so much. You're not going anywhere, actually. Yeah. So I went to county. The only time I've ever actually been to treatment, I've never gone to rehab. But I went to the state-funded detox for Xanax when I was like 19. Got kicked out for kissing some like 30-year-old drunk dude. I don't know how I got in trouble for that. I was the child in the situation, but whatever.
Can't do that.
Yeah, against the rules apparently. A chaos queen. So I got out, and
I'm going to call this the one where Brittany's a chaos queen. That's what I'm going to call this episode.
I love that.
Let me just before I forget, let me just write this down because I'm a big fan of Friends.
I noticed that from the episode names.
Yeah, the one where Brittany, everyone sees my process real time now, is a chaos queen. All right, name of the episode done.
Yeah, good, because it gets more chaotic, let me tell you.
Can't wait. So you kiss a 30-year-old, can't do that. Get kicked out. Obviously.
Get kicked out. But the case manager there really likes me and is like, hey, we're gonna send you to the Salvation Army program here. And one thing to know about me is don't tell me what to do. My pathological demand avoidance is insane. I was not diagnosed with ADHD yet at this time either. So I did not know this about myself. So we get to the Salvation Army, and they're just like too much for me. Like, they're like, you have to wear this. You're sorting clothes. So I pretend to pass out in the warehouse. I'm like, nope, and get medically discharged from the program. So now my mom has to come get me because I didn't do anything. I wasn't bad. I got medically discharged. I fainted. What was I supposed to do?
Yeah, for those who don't know, Salvation Army is, in my opinion, I don't know about yours, the second most strict kind of rehab recovery.
Yeah.
The most strict.
Yeah.
The most strict that I've heard is the wilderness ones.
Oh yeah, those are bananas, and probably
you're digging holes in the woods and shitting in the holes and then covering it up and keep on walking. No detox meds. Pitch a tent and you're sleeping out in the woods and you get. I've heard horror stories with people getting like kidnapped in the middle of the night because their parents set it up and they
Those are
come
the
down
teen
on your room
programs.
and
They're
pull you
nuts.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's fucked. And that's the one that I consider the most intense.
Yeah. And then Salvation Army, you're right.
And then Salvation Army, Salvel.
Yeah.
That's an intense one.
Yeah. So I made it 2 days and I was out.
Yeah. I believe it.
Yeah. And like I kind of like lived pieces of a normal life in and out. Like I moved to Colorado for 2 years with my friend. But again, her and I were eating Xanax like they were candy again and blacking out in bars in Aspen, Colorado. So
can't mix alcohol. Once you mix alcohol, then you really black out. Then you really black out. That was
the only way I took them. I would take Xanax and then open one of those little shooters of wine and pound it just to get started.
You black out on Xanax, but once you mix it with liquor, it is dangerous.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like I skipped over a lot of part of the chaos here in Vegas is I got too bold. I realized like I'm a pretty girl. I can get a lot of what I want. I know that I'm above and I don't want to like fault any sex workers. I'm not knocking anybody's, but I just knew that that wasn't for me. What I could get on board with though was a sugar daddy and like convincing some well-off man that he really liked me and that he wanted to pay for my life. And it worked really well for a long time. But again, I was having to take so many Xanax to convince myself to hang out with these men that it was just like progressing the problem.
You use the sites.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know a bunch. A bunch of people that have done it and they've used the like sugarbaby.com and all that kind of shit.
Arrangements, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, I've heard it.
Yeah. And I think that it sounds so gross to be like, but I know I'm a pretty girl, but like at like 19, 20, 21, like I had zero issue batting my eyelashes and like having men fall at my feet.
Especially Xanax, especially when you're on Xanax, then you really give no fucks about what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Count me in, put me in. I'm here for a good time.
Yep.
So I eventually kind of got away from that. I moved to Colorado and had a good time. I worked at a really cool restaurant up there, but I was just still being very chaotic. So I moved back to Vegas from Colorado, and that's when I discovered meth.
Who introduced you to meth?
My brother. My brother. Yeah. And I don't think I would have touched it had I not done it with my brother for the first time. There was like this safety of, my brother wouldn't give me something crazy. Mm-hmm. And also, so like the 6 months leading up to me starting using meth, my mom had started dating my current stepdad. Okay. And she was living at his house. She was kind of done with me and my brother. We were both creating our own chaos and was like, you know what? You guys can stay at this house. Like, I'm just going to go do my own thing. So I was like doing coke on the strip. I had learned my new game was going and playing blackjack at tables, and men were just throwing poker chips at me so I wouldn't leave the table. So I was just like staying and playing and then walking away once I had enough money. You gave me these chips. And getting like really drunk and taking cabs home. And I got home one day and my brother's friend, Andrew, my ex now, was there. And Andrew and I like had this, in my mind in that moment, locked eyes. And it was like the most romantic thing that's ever happened. And him and my brother were hanging out a lot. And I was coming home from work every day and they were doing coke and it was fine. Then I came home one day and there was some very seedy characters in our living room and like half an ounce of heroin on a scale on the table. And everybody was smoking meth. And I was like, oh, a lot's happened since I went to work.
Yeah, something's going on. Something's afoot.
Mm-hmm.
What were you doing for work at the time?
I was the in-house promoter for PBR Rock Bar on the Strip.
Okay, good old,
I had a good gig.
Good old Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah, well, and they have a bar at the Planet Hollywood, and it's like right on the Strip. They've got the Bull. It's like it's a very well-known strip bar here, and it was a good gig. Like I kind of hate that I messed it up looking back on it because I don't even know how I landed it.
It's so funny because you're talking like I'm in GA actually. I'm in Gamblers Anonymous, and my thing was sports betting. You know, I grew up 40 minutes from Atlantic City, and you know, I like playing roulette. That was my game of choice, was roulette. There was only one time it got out of hand, and it was virtually, and I was just really bored. and I had like $25 in my account from sports betting on FanDuel, and I was just fucking around, and within an hour I was up $2,000.
Ooh.
And then I'm a compulsive gambler, so instead of cashing out, I keep going
Until you lose it.
And an hour later, I had nothing, not even the $25 I started with.
Yeah.
And then I haven't played roulette since. And then I went back to sports betting until I quit that last July. And the reason I say it's funny is because, I live in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania where there's not even NA meetings. So I had to do NA on Zoom. So when I got clean from gambling, I was like, I can go anywhere for GA. Let's go to Vegas. So my meetings, my home groups that I do for GA are based out of Las Vegas. And my theory was if anyone can quit gambling, it's people that are from Las Vegas.
Fair.
So it's been working. I haven't, gambled since July 11th of last year.
Nice.
So yeah, I just celebrated a year without a bet. So it's funny. It doesn't trigger me when you say tables or blackjack.
Right.
None of that triggers me. Even sports
Good,
betting.
because I did not realize. I'm glad.
No, yeah. Even like people will send me slips. Like, look at my parlay today. I'm like, that's a good parlay, and it doesn't even faze me because people forget that I'm in GA. So anyway, you get home. There's heroin everywhere. People are smoking meth.
Yeah, and just
Something's going on.
Yeah, there's some dude named Scarface in my living room. I'm like,
nice.
Oh great,
Okay.
Surely this is fine.
Yeah.
And he looks exactly like you think he looks. Like when you hear that name, it's just all great.
And how old are you at the time, Brittany?
25.
I was gonna guess 25. Okay.
Yeah. So I knew, I knew what was up. I was also like taking coke and selling it at work on the strip at this point. But meth and heroin felt like a big step forward. Like,
it is. It is a big step.
Also, my brother had been sober from heroin. So I am like kind of instantly in a panic, and I like go in my room and change, and Andrew follows me back there and he's like, "Are you good?" And I'm like, "I'm a little bit thrown off." Yeah. I'm like, "But you know that my brother is like, this is gonna get bad fast, Andrew. I'm telling you." He's like, No. Mikey and I, it's fine. And I'm like, okay, all right. My brother was definitely a follower. He definitely struggled with like wanting to fit in with the boys and like be in with the boys. So I'm like, okay, all I can do is really sit back and watch. And I ended up hitting the meth pipe that night for the first time, and I was like, oh, brother.
Yeah, who wants this white Coke when I can do this?
Yeah, and it's my joke now is when people say they do Coke, I tell them to grow up and do a real drug. So and like it got out of control pretty quickly. My brother and I quickly learned we could not get high together. He lost his mind pretty quickly and was like on the roof checking for the CIA, and I was like, yo, Andrew, what is happening to him?
Yeah.
And Andrew was on I think he was on federal parole at the time. So he was like a little bit sketchy about what was going on. He wasn't into the whole thing. So my brother and I got in this big fight one night, and my brother whipped out a gun. And I was instantly like, what are you going to shoot your little sister? Get the fuck out of here. And that made him more mad. Like he put the gun down and was like, I was like, yeah, what? Okay. So Andrew removed me from the situation. He was like, all right, we're out. And he brought me to the big dope man's house. And I had been doing meth for maybe 6 days at this point. End up at the dope man's house. Now I'm doing hot rails with the girls that live there. And
which, for people that don't know, is snorting.
Yes, snorting it but turning it into smoke. Yes.
Yep.
Not a great plan, especially early on.
Yeah, I never did meth, but I had a sponsee at one point that was recovering from meth. So I've heard a lot of the terminology and the things and what happened. And it's funny you mentioned the CIA. He was worried about the cops in his basement, but he lived in a trailer. I was like, bro, that's your first. There it is. They're not in your basement. It's dirt.
Say that slowly. Tell me again where they are.
It's the dirt. But yeah, that's that'll happen. That'll happen.
Yeah.
So you're at the dope man's house. You're doing hot rails with a bunch of girls.
Yeah. And Andrew kind of dips out on me. Andrew is a trash bag of a person and like kind of dips out on me. But this dude, the big dope man, is like actually a really nice older guy. And he's like, you can stay here, like just hang out. So now I'm 2 weeks into the beginning of my addiction and I live at a trap house. And I'm like the queen of the trap house. I've got the key and like I'm kicking people out and telling people who's allowed to be there. And uh this is all fun and games for a while, and then I met some dudes that hung out on Boulder Highway in Vegas, and now I was in like Summerlin, the rich part of Vegas, doing drugs with the people whose parents left them houses and like have houses to do this in, and I get brought to Boulder Highway, which is the cesspit of Las Vegas, the worst. Like, people nodding out on the street, not anywhere near as bad as Kensington, but probably as close to what Vegas has.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is when I learned that I really love committing crimes. And I've
Is this back
all
where the tunnels are, where the homeless tunnels are and shit?
so those are all over Vegas.
Okay,
Actually,
those
those
are all
are
over.
a whole city, but they
Okay.
are really bad over there. But
Okay.
people don't have to be in the tunnels over there because there's so many abandoned weeklies and houses, and
No
somebody
shit.
else is
Okay.
keeping the door.
Okay.
It's just like a lawless land, really.
Okay.
Um, and I found out that I really loved, like, I really got a high out of the street life. I think, than I loved doing drugs. I like really loved the chaos, you
The,
know?
the adrenaline is the drug in itself.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
there's a thing called especially if you're with somebody that you have a thing for, that you know you have affinity for, whether it's a guy or something like that. It's called you know how there's like all these different things. It's called hybristophilia. Um,
Okay.
it's the Bonnie and Clyde syndrome.
Hmm.
It's when you're like an adrenaline junkie that's getting off on committing crimes, and I always say my drug of choice is the word more, more of whatever is filling that
I like
void.
that. Yeah.
And it sounds like that was yours too.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Bonnie and Clyde thing was very much a part of it.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is I had to really humble myself with realizing that I was smarter than other people
Hmm.
and not leveraging that because I realized that they were doing. I feel you can't try me for the same thing twice. I've been to prison for these crimes already, so I have no problem talking about them now. Um, I like really liked taking stuff. Like I loved stealing stuff, and I ended up going to prison on a gun-based theft. Like I stole a bunch of guns, and I was walking down Boulder Highway with a dumpster full of rifles in the
Oh
middle
shit.
of the day. Like I did not care. Like I zero qualms about it. And then I
Like
went
from a
back to
store.
that. Huh?
Like guns from a store or guns from a
No,
house.
from the house. I was committing massive, like I was creating fake deeds and selling them to this cash for keys place that was buying abandoned houses. Was what I figured out I could do.
Yeah, that's a crime, Brittany.
Yeah, it
That's a
is.
crime.
One that they will send you to prison for, let me tell you.
Sure is. Yep, sure is. We all have our grifts. We're all little con men or con
Mhm.
women,
Yeah.
and we're all sneaky.
Hmm.
We're all gonna find ways to make our money,
Yeah.
and 98% of the time it's illegally
Yeah.
and it's frowned upon.
Yeah.
And,
Well, who am I going to go to work every day? Please.
yeah, I got stuff to do. I got meth to do. I got drugs to do. I got to buy and sell.
Yeah.
You get addicted to the lifestyle. You know, for me, I'd wake up every morning and be like, all right, how am I getting money today?
Yeah, exactly.
How am I going to get money? Who am I going to buy from? How many am I going to buy? Am I going to have to get a middleman, or am I going to have to middleman in order to make some money?
Yeah.
Should I send out a mass text? Are you looking today? And then start collecting money, and then
Yeah.
charge everybody up, and then every day was a different kind of scheme. Whatever you had to do in order to make money to get high that day,
Yeah.
you were going to do.
Exactly.
And for me, I would always, try to save myself a little bit for the morning. And then the problem was I'm a fucking drug addict.
I
And
never
every
laugh.
night, I'm like, I'm just going to finish this off. And that's tomorrow JD's problem. I'll figure this out tomorrow when I need to. I'm just going to
Yeah.
get a little bit more high. and it was never
Probably
worth
the
it.
future of Brittany was always my saying.
You know, and it was never worth it. Like it was
No.
never high enough. And
Yeah.
I should have always saved it, and I never did. So you get caught with guns. Let's get back on track. You get
So
caught with guns.
I did not get caught. Yes. I didn't get because I went back to the house. They didn't find me with the guns, but they did police work and figured the whole thing out. And yeah, so I got very lucky actually. I got a very light sentence considering. I did a year and a half for that one.
Were
And
you
I got
getting high in jail?
no in the women's prison here there I think that I had heard that girls were doing heroin, but it wasn't really that rampant. I was buying Seroquel.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I mean,
right. They were also writing me so many psych meds that the Seroquel was barely touching it on top of what everything that they had me on. Because
I
I mean
took
the prison,
Seroquel once, and it put me in the hospital. It raised my heart rate to like 190 beats per minute, and this is in recovery. And yeah, I took Seroquel, and I was laying in bed watching Bob's Burgers like an adult,
as one
and
does.
and I was like, man, my heart rate's really high, and I got high blood pressure, so I have the cuff, and I was like, let me just see what's going on here. It was like 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night, and I put the cuff on, and it said 189 beats per minute, and I was like, holy shit. And I'm a big guy. Like, this isn't good for my heart. And
Yeah.
so I Googled, this is my first time taking Seroquel. I'm like, what happens when you have Seroquel and you have a very high heart rate? And it was like literally like Monopoly, like stop everything, go to the hospital immediately.
Call 911. Yeah.
Yes. So I hopped in my car. A hospital was 6 minutes away, and I was in the ER until 4 a.m. They would put me on a bunch of Ativan and to lower my heart rate, and they wouldn't let me go until it was under 100 beats per minute.
Dang.
And I didn't touch Seroquel since. And I wasn't trying to get high. I was trying to go to sleep. I was
trying to go to bed.
Yeah, I was off work for 3 months trying to figure out my sleep problem.
Jeez.
In recovery, because I've been a severe insomniac for 20 some years. And I'm medicated with drugs and alcohol for a long time. So in recovery, my psychiatrist was trying to figure out the right medication for me in order to sleep. So I took off work. My dad was really sick at the time. And at one point, I was awake for 11 days straight, Brittany, in recovery.
I never even made it that many days on meth.
Smoking a lot of weed, trying to go to sleep with weed, trying Ambien, trying all these different Lunesta, trying all these different sleep meds. Nothing was touching me. And now I don't. I did a sleep hypnosis with this guy in NA who's a hypnotherapist, and he did sleep hypnosis for me for free.
Is it effective?
Yeah. It gave me vivid nightmares for a little bit. But that's kind of par for the course with me, is vivid nightmares. And my wife does guided meditations. My wife's a meditation specialist or whatever, like has their license and meditations doing guided.
Cool.
So they do guided meditations for me sometimes too at night and try to calm me down. And yeah, I mean, I get more sleep now, but if I get 4 hours, that's like anybody else getting 8. I quit drinking coffee because I was drinking 10 to 14 cups a day. So I quit drinking coffee early July, and I haven't drank coffee in over 40 days. Jeez. Or late June. But yeah, so wait, here it is. I'm at my work desk. I would drink 4 to 5 of these a day. And the problem besides that is this much would be creamer.
So much sugar.
French vanilla creamer. I never put sugar, but French vanilla creamer, not diet or anything.
You're in creamer.
Yeah. Yep. So this much creamer and then this much coffee, 4 to 5 cups of these a day. I was going through 4 to 5 bottles of French vanilla creamer a week. Just absurd. Even on my days off, I drink a shitload of coffee. Just absurd. So I quit drinking coffee cold turkey, and I haven't touched it since. I just drink water. I drink energy drinks on the weekends when I do podcasting.
I was gonna say because you're drinking caffeine right now.
I'm drinking a Monster right now, but like during the work week, I drink water all day. I'm bipolar. I deal with mania. Last week I was up for 4.5 days straight, and I worked the entire time, and I just drank water the entire time, and got through it. And then I dealt with depression because that's the other side of the bipolar is I go
Yeah.
through mania, then a depression and back and forth. And, I'm medicated. Just, it's not perfect. This whole thing of mental health is not perfect. That's something I've
No.
learned. There's no perfect cocktail to fix, you know.
No.
So you get out of jail, you do about a year and a half. You
Hmm.
weren't really getting high. We were talking about Seroquel, but that doesn't really, it gets you snacky.
Yeah,
For people,
that's what it really is.
for
But
people
I
that,
knew I wasn't gonna stay sober. Like I knew that I wasn't when I got out.
yeah,
I had made friends. My bunkie in prison, her co-defendant, and I started talking on the phone a lot. And when I got out of prison, we started dating. We dated for 4 years. Um, so I'd left Boulder Highway. I was like, okay, I'm not going to commit crimes and do drugs like a degenerate now. I'm going to do drugs within the walls of my own home, like an adult. It's enough. Yeah. So I met Eric, and we like very quickly, our whole life. That's whose house my mom ended up sending them to when I got sober. And Eric was a heroin addict, and I was a meth addict. And initially in our relationship, I had said like I was that tweaker that was like, I'm gonna just lay around and not out.
Now,
Like
were
I
you
don't.
shooting up? Or were you just smoking? Or were you just doing hot rails? What were you
I
doing
was
with?
just smoking then. I had gone back and forth with shooting up, but I'm not good at it. So like I couldn't regularly shoot up because I couldn't hit myself.
Mhm.
So I had to have somebody that was willing to hit me.
Yeah.
But it was my favorite way to get high for sure.
And you said the key word. You said willing to hit you.
Yeah.
Because not everybody is going to be like, no, Brittany, I'm
Nope.
not going to do this for you. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
The first shot I ever did, actually, the guy that I was dating at the time, I was sick of him always being higher than me. So I was like, all right, I want to do a shot. And he was like, I'm not giving you your first shot. And I was like, someone in these weeklies will. And he was like, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah. That's the thing is when you want it bad enough, that's,
No,
anybody
so
that's ever shut up, they
I let
talk
some random homeless dude
time.
hit me in a park one time on Boulder Highway. Like I
Yeah.
had no qualms about who it was.
Yep. That's something that I've definitely learned. One of my best friends, she, was into shooting. And her first time is she was with somebody who was shooting up, and she was like, I want what you have. And
Yeah.
he was like, no, I'm not doing your. Everyone always says the classic words is, no, I'm not doing your first shot.
Yeah.
And then the response is, fine, I'll get somebody else to do it. And then they're like, no,
No.
if you're gonna
Okay,
do it,
I'll do it.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna do it the right way. It's
Yeah.
almost like a cool mom.
I've hit someone for the first time in that same situation because I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, I'm not gonna let someone miss on you. Like
Yeah. You become the cool mom. Like if you're gonna drink, you're gonna drink under my roof and be it.
you're gonna do a shot of meth, I'm gonna give it to you.
Yeah.
So crazy.
I know the insanity. I host meetings, and one of my topics a few weeks ago when I was hosting was the insanity. That was it. The word insanity, and talk about your insanity, because we all went through bouts of insanity through addiction.
Craziness. Yeah. So my ex and I, Eric and I started. We were like, getting high in the house, but we were also just hitting Walmarts and like shoplifting so much, ridiculous. And that ended up being our downfall too. Is a few days before my birthday in I think it would have had to be 2019. Um, we got caught leaving a Walmart, and I got into like a little altercation with the loss prevention. And they called the police, and we left. And I get in the car, and Eric turns into like the whitest Karen I've ever met in my life, and is like, "I don't like the way that dude put his hands on you. I'm gonna go talk to the store manager." I'm
Oh
like,
my god!
what? We just stole from that store. Get in the car. Like, what are you talking about? So I'm like, I will leave you. Like, I will leave you in your own car. And he goes to go back in the store, and I take off because I see police pulling in. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to jail 4 days before my birthday. I'm not. So I like take off. I dip through a car wash, and I'm going back to his house. And he calls me, and he's like, Are you kidding me? I'm like, no, dude, I told you I was leaving. Like, we don't go back to the store, whatever. So we leave.
Yeah.
We think we get away with it. We get back to his house. Everything is whatever. It's fine. A few months go by. And 2 days after Christmas, we're at his house. He had just done a shot of heroin. I had just done a shot of meth. and there's a knock at the door. And I had just gotten off parole. I was just off parole. And I hear like a scuffle at the door, and I come around the corner, and Eric is getting handcuffed and hemmed up by two undercover cops. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, can I get him his shoes if you're arresting him? Looking back, they had to instantly be like, guilty. She wasn't like, what are they arresting him for? All I said was, can I get him some shoes if you're going to take him to jail? And he goes, sure, can I see your ID too? And I'm like, I just got off parole. Sure, you can see my ID. He looks at my ID and he goes, oh, you're the other person we're looking for in this case. And like throws me up against the wall and handcuffs me too.
Yep.
It's like 11:30 at night, 2 days after Christmas. And Eric is nodding out next to me in the back of the car. And I'm on the dead opposite end of the spectrum. Yeah. And I'm like, can you tell me why you're arresting? And they're like, you guys are co-defendants in a petty theft crime. And I said, you did not send plainclothes detectives at almost midnight, 2 days after Christmas, to arrest me for petty theft. I don't believe you. And he's like, that's what it is. I'm like, okay. So we're sitting in jail holding, and we're like looking at each other across, and we're like, did somebody use our names? Like, because we hadn't had any police contact. The Walmart thing doesn't even go through my head. We go to court the next morning. They hit me with my charge sheet, and they're charging me with robbery with a deadly weapon and burglary. And I'm like, what? Now, surely somebody used my name, because robbery with a deadly weapon, I definitely did not do that. I get the complaint sheet. The 6'4" Samoan bodyguard that I tussled with said in his statement, my pocket knife, he knocked it off my pants, said that I pulled my knife on him and that he feared for his life in that moment. Robbery with a deadly weapon. So, Jesus Christ. But Walmart wouldn't bring the footage forward because their loss prevention was absolutely out of line the way he put his hands on me. 100%. Wouldn't come with the footage, and he didn't want to testify. Which at this point, I'm like, bring him to court, because I want you to look me in my face and say that I made you fear for your life in that moment. Yeah. Like, in a courtroom on a public record, have to point to me, 4 foot and 10 inches of me. And
is that what you are, 4'10"?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my best friend. She's also 4'10". It's funny, and I make fun of her, but she's like 7 foot, and it kind of reminds me of you. Like, she's 4'10", but she talks like she's 7 foot.
Yeah, I did try to take on the Samoan bodyguard, to be fair. So obviously it gets dropped down, but I get charged again. But this judge is nicer than my first judge, and she's like, I don't want to send you back to prison. I don't think that's going to do very much for you. She put the suspended sentence over my head. And and we both got house arrest. We got released on house arrest. And in some like weird twist of fate, we got released on house arrest at the exact same time, which they actively try not to do when you're co-defendants. And in the room, they're listing all the names of who each person isn't allowed to hang out with, the conditions. And we're not on each other's lists. And we're like, okay. So we leave and we go home together. Like, we're like, nobody said we couldn't. So finally, one day, his house arrest officer shows up to the house, and she looks at my ankle and she goes, are you also on house arrest? And I go, uh-huh. She goes, for what? And I was like, she goes, I mean, I can look up your name in the system. And I was like, well, the same thing as him. So she's like, we're flagging it. You guys are not allowed to be together. Fine. So that night, I took his car. He dropped his car off out his back wall. And I picked up his car and drove it back to the sober living I was at. And it was me and this one girl that was 19 in the sober living. And there's like a knock at the door, and she looks out and she goes, I think UPS is here. And I'm like, what? It's 11 o'clock at night. And the back window is like, knock, 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 through the back patio. And I'm like, oh, fuck, it's the police. Like, now they're on both sides of me. I instantly know. So I open the door, and the cop's like, put your hands behind your back. Like, no, for what? Like, what did I do? He's like, you flagged your house arrest. I'm like, but I didn't even go there. I did not even go there. I just took the car. He's like, yeah, no. So that means you were talking, you coordinated. You still can't do that. So I go back. And that's what, or no, I had already done Hope for Prisoners at that point. They put me back on probation. And again, I got out, and I was a firm believer in catch me if you can. I have 32 failure to appears on my record. I am not coming to court. You better come pick me up if you want me to be there. My cat is gonna try to walk across my computer.
Yep. I have two. I get it. They're very
So
funny. Mine are from the same litter, and they're
are
brother and
they?
sister. Yeah, and they're so scuba and diver, and they are so funny together. And they're very shy. They're very skittish. You know, they're rescues, and we've had them 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, and they're just we call the one Plops Diver, the boy, because he's 21 pounds, and he's just a chunk, and he loves to lay on top of my wife and I at night. And
Oh,
he'll jump back and forth between the two of us, 20 pounds of him, and just plop on top of us like a pancake and just melt on top of us like butter onto a pancake.
boy.
He's probably laying on my wife as we speak right now.
Yeah, right now. Hold up.
Yeah. But so all right. And he's a little bully too. So you're on
Probation this time.
at
And
32,
Eric and I are still
32 failures to appear.
yeah.
32. That's all right. And
Well,
you're
and so
33.
little funny story in this of who
That's like
Brittany
one a
is as
year.
a person.
You realize that, right? That's like one a year in your life that
Yeah,
you're averaging
he
one
was
a year.
patched together.
Since you're 1 year old, you've been failing to appear.
I told you my motto is catch me if you can. So I have a paid attorney this time around because now the public defender's office refuses to defend me in the state of
Obviously.
Nevada. My mom gets mad at me. She goes, "You seem proud of yourself." I'm like, "It's a cool story." Like, who can say that the public defender's office in their entire state refuses to defend them?
Yeah.
We get a court-appointed lawyer, and he refuses to answer my phone calls when I'm in court or in jail, and this pisses me off. So I decide that I'm gonna write a motion to have him removed from my case. So from inside the jail, I write this full motion. I have no idea how to write a motion, but what I do have access to is the law library on this tiny little iPad in the jail. What I didn't know was that my motion would be forwarded to him as well. So he shows up to the jail the next day, and he sits down on the visitation screen and he goes, "Hi." And I go, "Hi." And he goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" I said, "I don't know." And he
Got
goes,
your
"I
attention,
know."
right? Got your attention. You weren't
You're
answering the
here.
phone. Now you're here.
He goes, "Well, I could recuse myself from your case, but I did get you probation instead of prison when we go to court tomorrow. But I'll pull myself today if you'd like." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. Oh my God. I am so sorry, Michael." He's like, "You're lucky that I am honestly kind of impressed, and I think this is kind of funny. And I'll see you in court on Wednesday." And I'm like, "Okay."
Too bad ChatGPT didn't exist then you really would have had a letter.
Well, I was also in jail. I had to pull
Yeah.
this all from inside jail. So I didn't even have like Google to like, what does emotion need to say? It was all off the cusp. But I did it. I pulled it off. They do have like a little template at the jail of like,
Mhm.
I'm writing on this day to formerly blah, 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 to get back out and instantly go back to Eric. But now Eric is cheating on me. And I know this. There's this girl around, and he's like so cocky about it. And he's like, "Oh my God, you think that I have you and I would blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, whatever, pump my ego up. You're right. That would be stupid on your part. And then I blatantly called him. He was supposed to be off heroin. He was he was out of the sober living. But I came to his house and I walked upstairs. I didn't tell him I was coming. And this girl is sitting on his bed with a needle in his arm, hitting him with a shot of heroin. And I'm like, this is probably the only time I've been in love with my life I loved this man. So I was devastated and I lost my mind. I took off on him. She runs out of the room. I'm like swinging on him. His roommate comes in and like picks me up and like carries me downstairs and is like, "We're not doing that." And I leave with my mom, and I still, in my sick fucked up head that night, I would have gone back to Eric in a heartbeat. And he broke up with me that night. And I was devastated. I was wrecked. Like, I could not believe he was leaving me for this. Ugh, ugh. And just, I couldn't handle it in that moment. And my mom didn't know that this happened. And that next day is when my PO showed up and was like, "Hey, I'm going to send you back to prison." And I was like, "Dude, I want to die." Like, I don't care what you do to me. I hate it here. I don't want to do any of this. And he said, I'm going to give you the opportunity to figure out treatment. And I feel like I kind of scooted over the first time I went to California in this, but I left in a bad way. Like, my uncle is very respected out there. You don't talk badly to my uncle. Nobody does. I called him a psychopath to his face and said, peace out, when he told me to open the Bible and Jesus would take my anxiety. Again, was not ready for that in that moment. And I was like, I'm actively having a panic attack. What? So I have to now call this man that I called a psychopath to his face and have not spoken to since and say, like, hey, I'm going to go to prison if you don't let me come out there. And I can't go to one of our family treatment centers because I don't even have insurance. Like, I have Medicaid. And he was like, I'll see you when you get here. So I got to call my PO and I'm like, will you let me go to treatment in California? He's like, yeah, you can go to treatment in California. I'll give you 30 days and we'll check back in. Get there, instantly relapse instead of, doing this stuff. And my uncle called my PO and said, hey, she's doing really great here. I think another 30 days would be really helpful for her. So in that 30 days, I got my real first 30 days. But it was not fun. Like, I hear all these stories of people rehab. I've worked in detoxes. I didn't have any of those experiences. I slept on the floor of my uncle's church for a full year. And it's this tiny little decrepit old church house. It's not
now,
even
were we caught up to you getting clean like 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. So we're caught up to that now.
Yes.
Okay. When you got high, you relapsed right away, and
yes.
he made you cop to it right away to everybody and tell the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're here now.
Okay.
And I get my first 30 days and I, meet a guy, of course. I break all the rules, meet a guy, what's not dating the first year of recovery. But the difference is with this guy is also he's sober and he's a nice guy. I've dated all these super trash bag dudes. And this is like such a nice guy. And he's like just wants to love me. And he loves my uncle's ministry and he wants to help my uncle. So like that to me is an instant green flag. Looking back, I think he wanted to be married into my uncle's family more than he ever really liked me, but whatever.
Was he older?
Huh?
He was older?
He's almost 10 years older than me.
And how much clean time did he have?
About 30 days like I did.
Okay.
One of the, 60 days put together.
Okay.
But he was a really good talker and he gets this job managing this sober living like pretty quickly into us living at my uncle's church. And the dude that is the program manager, he's like, hey, my girlfriend is like really smart. You should bring her in to help you case manage. She doesn't have a ton of experience or clean time, but like I want you to meet her. So I meet who's one of my greatest friends now, this guy Andrew. He's such just a maniac in the field of recovery. He's so great. Never done drugs in his life, but this dude will go to war for people trying to get their lives together. So I meet him, start working with him. And that's kind of when I fell in love with recovery. Like I was like, oh, I want to do this. I want to help people. We focused on young kids at that sober living. So I had a lot of kids that were aging out of juvie, but weren't eligible to be off probation. So they got sent to our house. And like I was going to court, I was advocating, I was yelling at lawyers for my kids. I was doing all the stuff. And in the midst of this, my mom calls me and is like, hey, your brother's using fentanyl. And I was like, no way. Now, when I left Vegas, I left dating a full-blown heroin addict, and I didn't even know what fentanyl was. It had not hit Vegas yet in 2020. Surely people here were doing it. But I mean, I was pretty active in a scene around people using heroin and didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
I got to California and I feel like it was the only word anybody said.
Yeah.
So I very quickly learned what fentanyl was. My friend Mike Fiore, who started
no shit. He's been on my show 3 times from New York,
Mike
right?
Is my brother from another mother.
From New York, right?
Yeah, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And he started. Wait, don't tell me. Oh my God, what's the name of it?
I referred to it earlier.
Say it again, except for
Recover Out Loud or Inspire to Inspire.
Inspire to Inspire.
Yeah. I was wearing my Inspire to Inspire t-shirt earlier, actually.
He was on TikTok, and I was like, I gotta have this dude on my show.
He's insane. He's one of my favorite people on the planet.
He was actually on my show for his second time 2 days after his mom passed.
Oh, yeah.
and it was an intense
So
episode.
early recovery. That was a long
Yes,
time ago.
he was still in
Like 2
treatment.
years ago.
His first 2 times he was on the show, he was still in his treatment center in New York.
And still on method. That's crazy.
Yeah, he had just gotten after his mom passed, he was like 2 weeks clean off of methadone.
How crazy. I'm going to have to send this to him when he comes out now.
Yeah, I have his number on my phone right now.
Yeah.
Me and him
Mike
are
is one
boys.
of my favorite people on the planet. So
Yeah.
he was doing all the fentanyl awareness stuff, and him
Yep.
and my ex became really good friends
Okay.
for a small period. Mike,
He's in Huntington Beach now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's very active, and he was a big part of my uncle's church for a while. He kind of moved on from it and branched out and found like his own thing, which I think is great. But he was super involved with my uncle for a while.
I probably have seen your uncle then in his videos, I'm sure.
100% face tattoo.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Such a small world. That's the cool thing about Recovery Network is like, you know, I met you in a Taylor Swift group. You know,
funny.
And we both know Mike.
Yeah.
And he's in New York, but Huntington Beach, you know, it's just such a crazy, you know, once you said Mike Fiore, I'm like, I know exactly who Mike fucking Fiore is.
Hysterical, yeah.
You know, it's so funny.
So
funny. My God. Yeah. So how did you meet him? Through your uncle?
Yeah, he started coming around my uncle's. Because they started doing big recovery events at my uncle's house.
Yep. Okay. I know
the biggest meeting in Orange County is my uncle's Sunday night meeting.
I know exactly who your uncle is then. It's so crazy.
Yeah. Yep. Which I feel like the fact that I got sober with him, you knowing who he says a lot, should explain a lot about my personality, because
100%. Yeah.
I rocked with him for almost a full 4 years.
Yeah. As soon as you come JD from Pennsylvania, I'm going to
text him actually as soon as we're off there.
It's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah. Go ahead.
Why did I bring him up though? I lost me.
We were talking about your brother relapsing with fentanyl. You knew all about fentanyl because of being
so Mike was doing was facing fentanyl with Andrea Thomas.
Facing fentanyl.
The best.
Yeah. Doing speaking engagements all over the country.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And he stepped away from it now. He's like kind of found his calling in preaching and ministry, which I love.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
Yeah.
One of the best public speakers I've ever met.
Yeah. And Mike and I didn't become friends before. He was around my uncle's house, but I just didn't get to know him. I didn't not like him. I just didn't know him like that. But then him and Anthony kind of became closer friends. And my brother had moved back, and my brother instantly started doing fentanyl when he got back here, or when he got back to California. Mm-hmm. And he didn't want to come. It was a fight because he had spent all those years out there getting sober. And he left and came back, and he didn't program at all, which I don't think you have to actively program, but you can't forget you're in recovery, which is what my brother did. He just kind of was like, this is all fine. I'm fine. So I got him back out there. He lasted, I think, Set Free Nationals happens in July, and he died August 3rd. So he made it maybe a month when he died in treatment. And I remember I got a call. My cousin called me in the middle of the night and was like, hey, your brother relapsed. All I know is he's on his way to the hospital. Or your brother overdosed. All I know is he's on his way to the hospital. And my brain instantly went into protection mode. I laid back down, and Anthony was like, did I hear that right? Through the phone? And I was like, yeah, Mike overdosed. And he was like, do you want to go to the hospital? And I bolted up in bed, and I was like, oh my gosh, what?
What am I doing?
Yeah. So he called, because he was like, what hospital is he at? I'm like, I don't even know. So he calls my cousin back. We're on our way to the hospital. And I remember praying, for the first time, really praying and being and looking back at where I am in my walk today, it was such a selfish prayer of God, if you're real, I know my brother's not going to be dead. You wouldn't do that to me. There's no way you would let me. So we get to the hospital, and I didn't realize it at the time, but they brought me directly into a bereavement room. I got there, I told them my name, and they're like, okay, go in the back. And I was like, weird, but okay. So I get to the back, and my friend Pablo is back there, and the doctor comes walking in. He barely stopped at the door, and he goes, I did everything I could, but he's gone. And I was like, what? Surely that's not how you told me my brother's dead. He goes, I did what I could, but he's gone, and just kept walking. And the nurse was like, do you want to see him? And I was like, I don't know. How do you answer that? Yeah. So I sent my ex. Anthony went back there. And I will say the only credit that I will give this man of our whole relationship is my brother told him that he was using fentanyl again and was like, hey, but you can't tell my little sister. And Anthony was like, okay, and got in the car and was like, hey, your brother's using fentanyl. I can't lie to you about that. So I told my uncle, and I found out more backstory about it now. I guess I'll get into that later. So Anthony went and saw my brother, and now I have to call my mom because my mom is back in Vegas, and now I have to call her and tell her son is dead. So I'm calling, and my mom has never not answered the phone in my life. It does 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm in jail. One ring, she's answering. Now she's not answering the phone. So I'm in a full blown tailspin. Now I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with my mom? Like, she finally calls me back, and I'm like, Mike is gone. I didn't know how to say it. And she goes, well, where did he go? And I was like, no, mom, like Mike is dead. And she screamed and dropped the phone. And my best friend's mom, I don't even know how it all transpired, ended up at my mom's house in like 10 minutes flat. And I was honestly, it was a blur that night. I talked to the coroner. I was just like telling them information. I had no idea what I was even doing. I just knew that I had to get through this and instantly went into protecting my mom. Like, I think that was my own trauma. I was like, oh, your brother didn't die. Her son died. Like, we're taking care of her at this point. So we went back to the sober living, and I had one of my young clients, and this is like such a pivotal moment in what is now my mission. I had a client who was like maybe 19. He was struggling with fentanyl, and I walked back in the door, and when we had left, he asked like, what's going on? Are you guys okay? And I was like, my brother overdosed. I gotta go. So he came back in, and he was like, did your brother make it? And I was like, no, he died. And like he like went white in the face and like looked at Anthony and was like, can we talk? And ended up like admitting to his own relapse that night. And so yeah, life was a blur for a few days after that. We pretty quickly, my uncle flew my mom to California. We had a funeral at my uncle's house. We had him cremated. But I feel like I'm just 4 years later kind of allowing myself to go through that and like feel the feelings and mourn that my brother died. I have a really good friend who often reminds me of that. Not that sounds malicious, but she's like, hey, I know that you want to save all these people. And now, like, once a week, my friend through the church, we've been doing Narcan handouts downtown. We're just making like 100 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and giving people Narcan. But like my friend is often like, you lost your brother to fentanyl, and you have to face that too. I can save as many other people for the rest of my life, but I still have to allow myself that processing of like, it hit me directly. I've known so many other people since then that have died of overdoses, and
I just lost another last week. It's crazy. I hate to say it so nonchalantly.
Yeah.
But I feel like, this is a war, and
it is
just losing soldiers, and you have to be okay with the consequences of our actions that we take. And, we're going into this like we could die on any one of these instances now.
Yeah.
A relapse, you could die on the first one. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. I tell my mom often, like, even if I wanted to go back to meth, I would be too scared. I know too much now.
Yeah.
I know too much.
That's why all my relapses were like alcohol and prescription medication that I was getting from a pharmacy.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid still to this day to even buy Coke.
Yeah. I have a t-shirt that says, if you insist on doing Coke, please test it in the bathroom first.
Yeah. I'm afraid to even get cocaine because, and it's not like it hasn't crossed my mind. I'm an adult that's an addict that's, had urges, thoughts. And every time it crossed my mind, I'm like, well, I can hop on such and such app. I'm not going to give anybody ideas, but there's apps, there's social apps that are meant for other things that you can easily find drugs on.
Yeah.
And especially if you're a man, you look and there's another app out there that other men look for other men and you can find drugs.
Yeah, and, I bet OG, I didn't even think of that. But I bet that's heavy.
That's a big one. And from what I've heard, and I could go on there and I could find Coke if I wanted to, or meth if I wanted to. But fentanyl scares the fuck out of me.
Me too.
And especially if I'm an ex-opiate addict, all it takes is that one taste.
Yeah. Well, and so that's how my brother got started again, was somebody gave him a muscle relaxer that was cut with fentanyl. And he went, oh, yeah. I really fucking liked this.
Yeah.
and
Yep.
he didn't know how to do anything. We had a conversation on the phone like probably 2 weeks before he came to California because he told my mom. I was working for an addiction medicine doctor at the time because I dove in. Like I've done it. Like I'm in this world now. And my mom called me and goes, "Your brother said that you could explain to me why it makes sense that he's using coke to get off opiates." And I was like, as a drug addict, like I can understand why, but no, but absolutely not. Like that's so him and I talked on the phone and I was like, and he was mad that I said that to her. And I was like, I feel like it's time to address like we are both full-blown adults now. Like we were very good at blaming back and forth, like, oh yeah, I'm doing meth, but like Mike is on the streets at 90 pounds doing heroin. What are you worried about me for? So I like kind of was like, it's time that we stop that. Like it is time that everybody calls everybody on their bullshit. You can't do this, dude. You need to come back to California. And he
So
wouldn't
you're
do it.
4'10". Was your brother a small dude too?
For a guy, yeah. I mean, he
Okay.
wasn't tiny. Like he's probably 5'8".
Oh,
Not
that's what I am. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm 5'7", 5'8". Yeah.
yeah,
I say my license says I'm 5'8", but I'm 5'7".
yeah. I'm the smallest in my family. I mean, even my mom is 5'2".
Okay.
I'm especially tiny.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, yeah, because right now for me it's August 3rd. I'm on the East Coast, and it's actually my fiance, my first fiance. She committed suicide 10 years ago. A few weeks ago was 10 years, and our anniversary is today, August 3rd. And we grew up together.
Yeah.
She was bipolar, schizophrenic, and an alcoholic, and she drank to make the voices go away, kind of deal. And she took her life July 13th, 2015, a few weeks before our anniversary, our 3-year anniversary. And it's crazy. It's August 3rd, and you had mentioned August 3rd, and that's every time I see that, I think of the day I showed up at her house with 2 bottles of wine, like, hey, let's do this. And we started dating, and it's never easy losing loved ones, and I feel for you. I've been there, and
it was also my first taste of death. Like
really,
like
close to you.
Close to me. Yeah. Like, I mean, and my elderly grandparents, like my dad's dad was very sick, but we weren't, you know what I mean? Like, this was like my first punch in the face of like, oh no, someone that we were at a concert together a few days prior. We went to this Burritos, the band. They're a Sublime cover band.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually
put you back together now with
yeah,
with his son as the lead singer, and their first song came out recently.
Yeah, and they opened the Bradley House.
Okay.
It's up and running. I actually, that last night I spent with my brother, I met Kelly, Bradley's sister.
Mm-hmm.
She had a booth there for the foundation, and we were like kind of talking about like the stroke, blah, blah, blah. And then my brother died 4 days later after that concert. And I went back about a year later. I went to that same beach, that same Salty Dogs as the venue out there, and like looked at that same view and met her again and had a conversation with her. And like, it was like a really special moment of like that bond. You know what I mean? She lost her brother to an overdose too. Like to all of us, it's Bradley, but she went through that same thing. And that was a big, seeing what she was doing, like how much her mission, I was like, this is for me. I know that this is for me. I got a job in detox, I think right at 2 years sober. I got a job at one of the bigger detoxes in Costa Mesa. And I loved it. I loved working in detox. I think that I'm blessed with this like ability of I instantly talking to someone. I know whether you need me to be like, hey, like we're in this together. Let's get out of the car. And I've also like told grown ass men, you need to get the fuck out of your wife's car and stop talking to her like that. Like this is embarrassing and I don't even know you. Get out of the fucking car. And I
wanted to work in detox. I love detox or rehab treatment, because you know how LA is probably and how Southern California is with treatment. You're in houses, basically. You're not in these big buildings.
Yeah.
You're in houses.
Yeah.
And I was in a house in Culver, and then my sober living was around the corner, a few blocks away. And I used to walk over from my sober living to the treatment center and hang out with people that worked there, smoke cigarettes, bullshit. My therapist was there. I would go, this guy, Matt, who has been on my show, who is also addicted to chaos. I'm pretty sure that was the name of his episode. He was 1 year sober at the time, and he would take me to meetings all over the place in LA. And I started going with him as like an extra chaperone to like watch over all the like people that were in rehab that we were
Yeah.
taking outside meetings, and we would hop in the druggy buggy or the Dauphine limousine,
I like
whatever.
the Ativan.
The Ativan, yeah, everyone's got names for it. The Ativan's a good one. And you pull up to the meetings and you unload at the treatment center gets unloaded, and it's wild.
Yeah.
I don't miss it. I don't. I miss I miss being the responsible one there, but I don't miss being the newcomer in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I think I've learned a lot of there's some really great aspects to working in treatment. Like there's some girls that I detoxed 3 years ago that are doing really great. One of them works at the treatment center that I used to work at now, and like I so proud of her. But the other side of it is like getting yelled at by some 20-year-old kid's mom that overdosed and died, and I told you not to take him home and you did anyway, and now you're crying and screaming at me that I didn't do more. You know what I mean? Like that's not stuff that you were able to just put down then. Like I so many clients a week after they're out of detox, you're like, oh my god, you hear this person died, and like what the fuck.
Yeah. I think there's 4 people I went to rehab with, and there wasn't a lot of us. There was, maybe the 28 days I was in rehab and treatment center, I was probably with a total of 30 to 40 people that were like in and out, and I
Yeah.
would say I know 4 of them from being friends on Facebook, maybe even more than that. But like 4 that I became friends with on Facebook are dead 7 years later.
Yeah, my uncle's got all in front of his house, in front of the magic house, there's tiles, and there's a gone too soon tile, and there's like 27 people on it. And granted, that's more rampant in his. I mean, they're so enthralled in it, but all the time. I mean, we just lost like a 19-year-old kid that left my uncle's house and went and found some house in LA.
Yep, as simple as that. Well, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing now. What are you?
Yeah,
What
now
are
I'm
you
trying to
doing
turn
for
it
work?
around.
What are you doing for work now? Are you working in recovery now?
So I work for a bookkeeping company right now. I'm getting my bachelor's in drug and alcohol counseling.
Nice.
So I couldn't do 12-hour detox shifts and be a full-time
And be a
college
full-time.
student.
Yeah, makes
So I
sense.
stepped back and I have this other job right now, but I'm itching to be back in treatment. I was actually managing a recovery housing unit out here that I just moved out of. Kind of had different ideas. My ideas about recovery are radical to some people, but like I'm not going to kick you out of somewhere for smoking weed if it's going to stop you from hitting a foil on fentanyl and dying tomorrow morning. And I'm not going to treat dudes that just got out of doing 10 years in prison like children and babysit them and make them do head counts again. Like, I'm not. So, standing up for what I believed in and being more focused on keeping people from dying than making a treatment center or sober living money.
Yeah.
Costing my free living, but like I stand by it. You know what I mean? I'm big on like standing for something or you stand for nothing.
Yeah. Fall for anything.
Thank you. That's the one I wanted.
Got you. I got you. How's it 1 a.m. here and I'm the one getting you on the right?
Hey, I packed and moved U-Haul. This is not what I usually look like.
I get it.
I'm lucky now to have a church that, even though there's a couple people in recovery, but it's not a recovery-based church. But my pastor, he's the best. And from the first time we met, I was church shopping here. And a lot of the churches were like, that's great that you're in recovery, but please stop saying meth in our lobby for the love of God. Like, stop telling people that. I'm like, fuck you. That's part of my story. I'm not coming back then. That's fine. Yeah. But when I met Jack, he was instantly like, I love that. I want to hear this whole story. I want to know more. And that for me was such a big thing. He wanted to know how I found God, which for me was very much in that hospital room the night my brother died was like the night that I decided that I was giving my life to God. And he just pumps it up. Like we have all these young adults groups coming to visit. And he's like, great, you're going to do a Narcan handout with Brittany. Like, you guys want to know where people need help, you're going out with her. So that's been a big part of my recovery, is having people that are like championing it so loud. It's been like such a blessing in my life. My friend that's come and done all the Narcan hands out with me, he's never done drugs a day in his life. He randomly was like part of some girl overdosing his ex-girlfriend came out of a hospital or a casino bathroom and was like, hey, this girl's out on the floor in here. And he was like part of reviving her. So he found out when I was into the recovery and that this was my passion. He was like, I want to be involved with this. And I'm like, okay, everybody says that. You know what I mean? But like, this man has been out on the streets with me multiple times, handing out Narcan.
Yeah, we all find like our different, and because my thing is 12 steps, but it's this too. It's this podcast, and like I said, I think before we got rolling is like, I don't have sponsors. I don't get paid to do this podcast. I pay weekly to use the StreamYard format that we're recording on. And it's my sober hobby. And I've talked to people literally, I think 9 different countries.
Wow.
I met people through Facebook. I met Mike on TikTok, and then, Instagram, we started talking, and Facebook, we started talking. And that's how I met a lot of people, is TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm part of a lot of like recovery groups on Facebook, and somebody will post like, here's my before and after.
Yeah.
And then I'll comment like, I want to hear your story, message me, I have a podcast, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I met so many people that way. And, it's just been like Swift Steps. I posted there and you commented, and that's, it's how I find people.
It's funny because people have been like, hey, you need to be more active on social media. Like, you need to stop just sharing memes about how much you hate Donald Trump and like maybe tell people your story.
But I love your memes about how much you hate because I love that shit. I think that's how we started laughing too.
I actually just get today, one of my uncle's friends who is like a very Christian Republican messaged me on Facebook and was like, I think you need to remember who you are. Call me. We'll talk about this. And I was like, I love you and I respect you so much, but I am not calling to get a lecture about being nice to a carrot. Like, it's just not happening.
It's a mess out there.
But the point is, people have been pushing me to get my story out there more and like be more active with it. So when I saw the post, I'm like, all right.
Yeah, it's been a really cool way to like help people tell their story too, because people get nervous, just being like, there's a podcast, I forget the name, but the host will just be like, all right, tell your story, and then just sit there while somebody tells their story. I think it's called We're All Insane, which is a cool name, and they have a ton of followers, but still, that's boring to me. I'd rather have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
And some people are, they want to tell their story, but they're unsure of how to go about it. And, I like to jump around, as you can tell, and I'm good at keeping you on track. Like last time we said this, and keep going and go on tangents and then bring it back again. And, I love doing this kind of thing. When we had to reschedule, I'm like, no, we can do it late night. I'm cool with that. Like, I'm awake. I have insomnia. I have a monster. This is fine. But it was great talking to you.
Yes.
I'm glad I could help you put your story out there. I will let you know the night before it gets released, or 2 nights before it gets released. September is recovery month, if you didn't know that. And releasing daily episodes, for the entire month, and your episode will be out in September. And looking forward to, helping you put your story out there. And it's been great getting to know you, Brittany.
Yeah, I'm going to text Mike Fiore right now and say,
I can't wait. You shoot me a message on Facebook. Let me know what it says. All right, have a good night.
You too. Bye.